Are you ready to shatter ceilings, to redefine what's possible in your life and business? Then welcome to the Beyond Woman podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of empowerment, the art of crafting a lifestyle business that truly serves you, and the tools to unlock your most authentic, powerful self. I'm your host, Jacqueline Walker Johnson, and here we celebrate the women who are rewriting the rules, the visionaries carving their own paths, and the experts who are sharing their hard-won wisdom to guide us all. Join us for intimate conversations with women who are not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Women who have the expertise and the sheer grit to empower you to step into your limitless potential. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and transformed. This is the Beyond Woman podcast. Let's begin. Today's episode is brought to you by the Freedom Formula. Sis, what if your freedom wasn't found in more hustle but in healing? The Freedom Formula isn't just a program, it's a movement, a sacred space for women ready to stop striving and start thriving. Social media gives you the highlights, but if you want the depth, the soul work, and the actual steps to get free, you need to be in the room. And that room is our private community. So if you're ready to get free, financially, emotionally, and spiritually, tap the link in the show notes and come join us inside the Freedom Formula. We're waiting for you. Today's guest is Kemoy Kayan Duhaney. Kemoy is dedicated to cementing her legacy as the Caribbean's leading cultural commerce strategist, empowering the diaspora to intentionally support Caribbean-made products and services worldwide. With 15 plus years in retail leadership at Sephora, Macy's, Victoria's Secret, and more, plus degrees from the Fashion Institute of Technology, she equips executives, entrepreneurs, and sales teams to exceed targets while driving social impact. Since 2018, Kemoy has helped Caribbean startups craft omnichannel CX strategies to grow U.S. customer bases. She played a key role in developing CaribShoppers.com customer experience strategy, making it the region's #1 e-commerce marketplace. She has also guided brands like the Gold Accelerator Club and Pholk Beauty in leveraging cultural influence for deeper customer connections. Her expertise has been featured on NASDAQ.com, The Jamaica Observer, Woman in Tech Caribbean, and the best-selling book Retail Pride. A Bronx-born daughter of Jamaican immigrants, Kemoy is a dual citizen passionate about self-development, hip-hop-fueled workouts, and a 90% plant-based living. Hi, Kemoy. How are things? Kemoy, the champion of Caribbean startups, helping local brands to position themselves, the mentor. You've worked with great brands like Sephora, Victoria's Secret, Macy's. You're just doing a lot of great things, Kemoy. How are things?
I am well. I'm in a growth stage at the moment. So I'm currently working on an amazing project, working with emerging brands in a retail accelerator program here in the US. So I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Maybe I know you, but our audience probably some might know you, but majority don't. So if you could just share a little bit about yourself, about your background, all of that. I know we would have spoken about it in the bio, but you can tell us a little bit more.
I am an advocate of the Caribbean diaspora, supporting locally made brands in the Caribbean and supporting Caribbean-owned brands abroad. It's something that I'm passionate about, and not even beyond passionate about it. It's literally a part of my life's purpose, and it has weaved and manifested itself in so many different ways in my life. So it's literally a part of my daily life, and everything that I do, it's always about embracing Caribbean culture, but more specifically through commerce and through celebrating our culture through commerce, and also bringing the community together. So that's one of my biggest things that's just about my life, that anytime that someone asks me, like, who am I? What do I do? I literally always start there first, because it's so important to me. Outside of that, I'm a daughter, I'm an aunt, I'm a godmother, I am a leader, I'm a retail strategist, I'm a coach, and I'm a mentor as well to high-performance sales teams and also high-performance sales leaders and entrepreneurs.
I love it. Not too long ago, I was just thinking about the different aspects of my life, and I summed it up as being multifaceted. And that's what's coming across to me as I listen to you. You're such a multifaceted person, individual, and we're so appreciative of the fact that you're highlighting the Caribbean and you're doing so much for Caribbean entrepreneurs. So today we're talking about expanding the Caribbean, how to take your business global. Such an exciting topic, I believe, and one that is needed. And why is it that why does this topic matter? It's because the Caribbean, we're so full of talent, we're full of culture and innovation. But the thing is that many other entrepreneurs, the businesses struggle with expansion due to limited access to global markets, resource and networking opportunities. And so it is important for us to have this kind of conversation. I also like to start with a little bit of statistic as it relates to each topic. And it says that in Latin America and the Caribbean, women constitute only 27% of entrepreneurs. And a significant portion of these ventures are driven by necessity rather than opportunity. And this highlights the critical need to support Caribbean women entrepreneurs in expanding their businesses globally, transforming necessity-driven ventures into opportunity-driven enterprises on the international stage. And so, like I always love to say, you're the perfect person because that's what your life is about, showcasing our Caribbean talents and helping them to get to the next level. And so I'm very excited to explore this topic with you, Kemoy. All right. So in our first segment, we're going to talk about why Caribbean businesses should think global. And, we're probably going to focus on breaking the small market mindset and more. And so I want to start off by asking you, why do you think many Caribbean entrepreneurs don't think about global expansion early on?
I think because of access to capital and resources and also connections and the challenges of shipping internationally and also regionally, they don't believe that it's possible to do it and to be successful and really good at it.
Mm-hmm. And is there maybe a cultural hesitation, where we think that global expansion is too big for us?
I think it has a lot to do with the many challenges just to even do business in their own country, much less do business outside of the country. And when you just amplify all of those things, they're just like, I don't have the bandwidth to do this. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges why they don't actually execute it. Another challenge is a lot of times everyone feels like they're on an island alone and they don't realize that collaboration is the key to success. So collaboration among your team, collaboration with other business owners, collaboration with your actual customers. Like, do you actually know your customers? And also collaboration within the communities that you serve. So it's not about just selling a product or a service. It's also about integrating yourself to grow your business. So that like I said, integrating with your team, integrating with other business owners, integrating with the community. And a lot of people feel like I don't want to share, I don't want to give away my IP, my ideas with all of these people because someone's going to take my idea. Someone's, you know what I mean? Like, there's always kind of like a crabs in a barrel mentality, instead of saying, you know what, the more I give, the more I share, the more you receive, and the more you will learn about different opportunities for you to export or get exposure for your brand abroad.
Mm-hmm. I love that you brought up this whole matter of collaboration, and how that can drive entrepreneurs to do better. Even, when you talk about the mentality that we have and the fact that we're so afraid of sharing, because somebody's going to steal our intellectual properties, it's somewhat limiting. And, we must understand that, collaboration is way bigger than that, the opportunities that can come through. So I'm really happy that you brought that up. What are some of the common misconceptions that Caribbean business owners have about going global?
So one of the biggest in when I was consulting actively, one of the biggest challenges that I came across when consulting was that a lot of, especially new emerging business owners, they wanted to only focus on going global, but not actually testing and learning where they are. So whether that be if they are abroad, testing in that market, or if it's still in the Caribbean, they're not focused on doing really well and building a buzz where they are. So it's that term, you have to dance a yard before you dance abroad. It's that same mentality. It's about how do you create that buzz locally so you can expand globally. The best example I like to give is if you think of like dancehall and like reggae music. All the top dancehall hits, they build a buzz in Jamaica first before you see, most times, before it blows up in another place like Japan, the US, Canada, England, usually that buzz is always built locally before it expands globally. So I like to use that example for the same thing with businesses. So don't create something with who you think your target customer is. So that's also another thing too. You have to know you have to really know who your target customer is. You can't assume who this person is. You actually have to have service that person, engage with that person. They have shop with you so you can get to know who these people are, whether that be through personal relationships or even data, which is also really important as well too. So knowing who this customer is, and the best way to test and learn is to do it locally first. You build that buzz. If people really like your product or service, especially when you think of like big holidays in the Caribbean, like Easter, Christmas, New Year's, those are great times where you're going to get a lot of people revisiting the island. So are you doing any like events, pop-up shops? Like, what are you doing so you have exposure to this community while you're at home, and then you're able to see what is the response of the product? Do you have customers locally who are shipping your product overseas if it's a physical product? If it's a service, when are the key times of the year when you're servicing the diaspora if they're back home in the island? So it's really taking that data and really truly understanding that customer to develop a product or service that caters to this market, and it's something that they need. And it's not just something that you want to sell. It's about, does your product or service, is it a solution to a problem that this target customer has? It's not like a nice to have. Like, what problem does it solve, or what pain point does it alleviate for this target consumer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So in other words, I'm getting from you that it really is a process, and it's not a movement from A to Z, like an immediate movement. And we need to be aware of that. Awesome. All right. I want to talk about untapped opportunities. What are some of the untapped opportunities for Caribbean business in global markets?
I would say untapped opportunities, it goes back to what the piece when I said about collaboration. So before a brand even considers going global, you have to have the mindset that you can do it. That's one, right? And then you also have the collaboration piece, like I keep owning in on, is so important, because the more you're immersed in collaborating with the community, with your customers, with other business owners, you will naturally start to find opportunities where you can collaborate with businesses, organizations overseas. So for instance, I'm on the Northeast Jamaica diaspora group. And in that group, there's different events that happen virtually and in person throughout the year. If a business owner is really interested in like tapping into the diaspora, that's a perfect opportunity to be because most of the events are virtual. So being tapped in where you're actually attending the events and being a part of the community, you're meeting people, and the diaspora is on these calls, and it's usually the key people in the diaspora. That's like a perfect way to start to learn about what's happening. And these diaspora groups are all over the world. So it's not just in New York where I'm based. They're in Florida. They're all over the US. And like I said, they're all over in different countries as well. So how could you be a part of those groups? And being a part of those groups, you start to learn about different opportunities to expose your product or service. I think that's the biggest thing that new emerging or established entrepreneurs need to own in on. How do you get exposure? Not necessarily say, you know what, I'm just going to fully just start selling my product or service to the US. And then you have like this blanket customer where you're trying to serve to like anyone in the US because of the amount of money that's here and the amount of buying power that's here. But I would say focus on the community that you know, and focus on the diaspora. Focus on people who has similar cultural similarities to you. And the diaspora is a key group to focus on. And then the second thing would be actually like networking and getting into these different diaspora groups, and then figuring out a way how you can test and sell or introduce your product within those groups and those communities. And I think that's one way to start. I think it's always good to test and learn first. And it's also great. It's also a easier way for an entrepreneur to get into the US, because you're testing it first versus just going all in. And then you lose like a whole bunch of money, or it doesn't really work out and you didn't do the proper research. So I find that to me is a great area. That's a great way to start to like uncover the untapped markets, because the US market is very saturated in most categories. But I feel like there's definitely really brands tapping into like really just connecting and communicating to the diaspora specifically is something that's like it's a huge miss.
I'm thinking that that is not even something that one would consider. I'm not sure because I'm not au fait with the topic, but you would know. That's a great potential for Caribbean entrepreneurs to avail themselves of connecting with your own, based on the fact that you said that the market is so saturated in most areas. So connect with your own and encourage your own to support you in whatever way that they can. I love that. All right. I had our previous podcast discussion had something to do with moving into the global market. And, in that conversation, we had talked about sometimes entrepreneurs not very proud of their Caribbean heritage. And I want to ask you, how can small businesses in the Caribbean leverage their cultural identity as a strength in global branding?
Simply by talking about it. There's a lot of Caribbean brands and they have this idea that they can't associate with being Caribbean to be successful. So a lot of times you will see a brand, and unless you see it says made in Jamaica or you see where it was manufactured, you would look at the packaging and not know that it was made in Jamaica. And I feel like there's a balance of you can have that aesthetic, but then also show up very Caribbean at the same time. And I think I think it's more beneficial to talk about it because it sets you, it's a point of difference and it's a point of reference. So take for instance Jamaica. Everyone loves brand Jamaica. It's very popular in the US and around the world. It's a globally it's one of the most recognized islands in the Caribbean. So if you reference anything around that, there's going to be people who are Jamaican who resonate with it because they're like, oh, it's something from home, right? So it helps them to like have that connection. Then you're going to get the people who visited Jamaica. It's like, oh my God, I remember my vacation in Jamaica. Then you're going to have the people who say, you know what, I always wanted to go to Jamaica. And then there's the people who like listen to the music and eat the food, but still never been. But they're like, you know what? I had some oxtails and that's Jamaican. So it's like you capture so many different people when you make these references. So it is just a way to have people to connect with your brand. And I think it's a huge miss when businesses choose not to embrace it in some way. And I know in some instances, it could potentially like hold them back because people are like, oh, this is from Jamaica, especially if it's something that's not in a super established industry. But I think there's ways where you could still leverage that because you need to still stand out and be unique. And I don't think everyone being the same or showing up the same really helps you. It's always the brands that stand out. If you think about the most powerful brands that we all know, like Apple, Meta, Google, or Alphabet, all of these big brands, you know them because they did something very unique and they stood out. You don't know these brands because they kind of look like everything else. So I like to kind of equate it to that. And it's just finding your own way and your own voice on how to do it and how to execute it. And if you know your customers, you'll know what to say or what not to say. Or even if you do customer surveys and you ask your customers, like, what resonates? What do you love about my brand? And when you hear the words and the phrases that the customers use, or even if you're on your website and you see what customers are typing in, if you're like searching your website analytics or your Google analytics, like what are customers typing in when they're searching for a product or service that's similar to yours or that is yours, those will also help you to know what parts of your Caribbean culture or heritage that you should leverage in your marketing to promote your brand.
Yeah, and it just goes back to the story that you tell, right? The storytelling is such a huge deal. And, I don't know if persons take it as seriously as they should because everybody can relate to a story, and where you're coming from and what you represent and buy into that. And I think that that is such a big deal. So we're at the end of this segment. And what I'd like to say is that expanding globally is not just for big corporations. It's obvious, right? Caribbean entrepreneurs, because of the uniqueness of their products and their services and just the culture itself, we can thrive on the global stage. Wouldn't you say, Kemoy?
Yes. Yes. Think about like when you said that, the first thing that came to mind is like Jamaican black castor oil. Like people literally like anyone who is interested in castor oil or hair growth, and as soon as they hear castor oil, people almost automatically assume Jamaican black castor oil, like literally. But are there any big Jamaican brands that's currently exporting Jamaican black castor oil? All the major brands that I know that do it really well are not Jamaican owned.
I was about to say that they are capitalizing on Jamaica, the name Jamaica, because when you talk about real castor oil, sometimes I pick up these products and I can assure you, they're not authentically Jamaican. And so it goes straight back to the storytelling. You're talking about it, and I'm imagining, somebody walking in a Jamaican farm, you know, where they get their raw products from, and just telling the story from the inception to the end product, such a great way. All right, so we're moving into our second segment, which deals with steps to expanding Caribbean business internationally. And I'm saying that before expanding into the global market, I'm pretty sure there are some considerations that each entrepreneur must undergo. And here we want to focus maybe on, like market research, demand, but we'll get into all of that as I ask you the questions, right? So what are the first steps an entrepreneur should take when considering global expansion?
First, they need to evaluate their leadership. Are they the leader that could take their brand globally? And I know that's like not an easy question to answer. So depending on that answer, the next step is, do you have the team in place to help you expand globally? Do you have the team to help you thrive locally before you expand globally? So those would be the three top things, because a lot of times people just focus on the end goal, but they don't focus on the process, especially when it comes to the people aspect of the process, on how they're going to get there. Because you have to have a strong team, and you have to be also pouring into yourself as a leader, and also knowing your capabilities and your capacity. So for instance, in the work that I do, both personally and when I was consulting, and also when I'm working with a company, a lot of times the entrepreneurs of these businesses they are the visionary of the brand. Most times the person who creates the vision is not usually the best leader to actually lead the team to where they need to go. But they have the vision. That's why you need the team in place to help the visionary to execute the vision. And that's where I think that a lot of businesses don't make it because of that. So they can have the resources, they can have the connections, they can have all these other things. But if you don't have those three things that I just stated, you can't get to next.
Listen, that's an excellent point, because I don't need to be in your shoe to see what you're saying, that the whole representation and being able to, the leadership, that's the bottom line, being able to lead in a way that allows the business to flourish as it should. A lot of times as small businesses, we are so engrossed with the creativity aspect of it, and then the business aspect of it wanes. So that is an excellent point that you just brought up. What about having the right business model? Should one do exports? Should one do a franchise, e-commerce? Let's talk about that. How important is it in choosing the right business model for your business?
It's very important, because you have to be able to meet your customers. It's because it's all about having the right model that best serves your customers and best serves the customers that you want to attract. And then also the model that's going to allow you to scale.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to think about all of those things before you pick the model, because all of those things, they're a little bit different, but they all are going to help you get to next. Because there's a lot of, I think you mentioned this earlier about, I could have listened to it on a pod, because I was listening to episodes before the show. So I'm trying to remember, was it just now or was it from an episode? But in terms of people create a business in the Caribbean, and then they're only doing it based on need. Like you said, they're not doing it based on, this is the opportunity where I can attract more customers. This is where my customers are. And can I scale this? They literally I need to make X today to get X done today. But what about the future? So I think that's when all of those things come into play in selecting in the model. You cannot ignore e-commerce. And I think a lot of Caribbean businesses learned that during COVID. I can't believe COVID was 5 years ago, but
listen,
I think a lot of Caribbean businesses got the warning during COVID. So that was one of the upsides of COVID, that they had to learn really quickly. I can't ignore this digital piece anymore. The digital piece, e-commerce, is super important, because if that's literally your gateway to going global, right away. Can you have the payment systems in place, which I know is painful when you're banking in the Caribbean? I get it, but it needs to be done. Can you accept multiple forms of payment? Shipping, which is really important. Like, how can you ship? And then also security, trust. Speak with the diaspora, especially. That's something that's a big barrier that a lot of people in the diaspora have if they're ordering something. Like, can I trust this website? Are they going to scam my credit? Like, take my credit card? Am I going to be, a victim of a scam? So those are things. So building trust and having a secure website is so important. For many reasons. Are you showing up even outside of e-commerce? Are you doing any digital marketing efforts? Are you on social media? Like, what are you doing? So people know, like, okay, you know what, I could trust this business. I want to give it a chance. Do you have people like doing written reviews or video reviews of your business, of them purchasing from you online? That's also important as well. And I think that's also like a first step. So before you like trying to, export your physical products and doing a franchise, like you mentioned before, having a strong e-commerce and investing in that, so you can have both persons locally engaging in e-commerce, because they could be in a different island, they could be in a different part of the island where they can just get your services locally, and also it would serve the customers abroad. So you know what, like we talked about earlier, we were talking about Jamaican black castor oil and how most of the businesses say it's Jamaican black castor oil, but many people from the Caribbean know what real castor oil is. So it's like, you know what, why don't I, right now, is for a lot of people, it doesn't come to them as a first option. Let me buy it directly from what I know. Like Haiti also has really good castor oil as well. It looks very different from the Jamaican black castor oil, but Haitians would be like, you know what about, I know that this is really good. Where can I get authentic castor oil? Can I just get it directly? And most person's first option is not to think that they can search for it online and get it directly from the source. They think they have to wait till somebody goes down to bring it back up for them. And then that's an opportunity too for a business to grow, because if we shouldn't think that. We should be, especially now where we could buy anything from all over the world. And I'm sure these same customers are buying stuff from like Shein and Temu, which is so far away, and they don't think twice about it. So why not do the same thing with the Caribbean? Like, but also too, the businesses have to meet the customer where they are as well. They have to be able to promote like, hey, you can get this from us and we sell this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I want to see change, is that people shouldn't feel like, oh, I have to wait till somebody goes down so I can get it. Like, they should be able to get whatever they want right away. And then also too, promoting a buzz about it, and then having people who are not from the Caribbean like, oh my God, I could get real black Jamaican, I'll buy it too, like no problem. So that's kind of what I think is necessary in this important in choosing a business model.
Yeah. And, I'm listening to you and I realize that is just such a big constraint though, for us as Caribbean entrepreneurs, because I think about myself. I have a brand of lipstick, my Sarah Vaughan Cosmetics, but guess what? I can't export outside of here where I am because they don't allow it. You can, because it's like a liquid. And there are just so many restrictions as it relates to the Caribbean. And I guess maybe that's where the diaspora comes in, where they try to lobby for changes as it relates to these situations, And I'm also thinking about the e-commerce. I know that we have begun to kind of break ground where that is concerned. There are a couple of payment facilitators that are coming on. But guess what? Just today, I was testing my website. With trying to purchase one of my own lipsticks, just testing. And my payment gateway, which is from Jamaica, says there's a big thing that comes up. I realize that you may be using a card outside of, and therefore you need to contact your bank so that you won't be declined. And I'm like, come on, the lipstick is like $15.
Wow.
Could I contact, as from the consumer perspective, am I going to be contacting my bank because I want to make a $15 purchase? So you understand there are just certain things that we still need to work on. And I'm pretty sure with you involved and the fact that you are in the diaspora, if one area begins to see how can they help Caribbean entrepreneurs, then it will have a rippling effect. All right, so I just want to throw this question in. Have you noticed any shared strengths across Caribbean entrepreneurs? Because I know that you have traveled to a couple of Caribbean countries. So are there any shared strengths among Caribbean entrepreneurs that they may not even realize is a strength that they can use to their advantage?
Their confidence and belief. When the most successful entrepreneurs that I've met, they have this like it's like a stubborn belief, like their product, what they're doing. And sometimes you kind of need that, to be honest. But their confidence is something that's like, it's truly unmatched when they know like something is good, and they know the power that it has to really change, and that belief. And sometimes it carries them through when things get really hard. It carries them through when they don't see a way to get to the next step. And it also carries them through when they are actually successful, because they remember where they came from. So that resilience, that belief, that confidence to keep going and to keep thriving and not to give up is something that I've seen with every Caribbean entrepreneur I've ever engaged with, for the most part. Like literally, like that's something that's a unique trait that they could leverage. And I know sometimes it could be hard because they don't think of it as like, it's something that's instilled in them from at like a very young age. So I think that's something. I think it also has a lot to do with like Caribbean schooling and high expectations from parents, and it just manifests into when they are actually creating a business.
I know you love the Caribbean, and I can see it, that you're so passionate about the Caribbean. That is such a positive element about us. I believe that we're such a resilient group of people, as you mentioned, and there's just like no stopping us. And it once we recognize the power that we have, then we will accomplish the amazing things that we set out to accomplish. Because like you said, if you believe, and that is where the foundation is, I believe, believing in the product that you have, believing in your vision, and not letting things stop you from executing and being excellent to start. Because I mean, everything ties in. You talked about the fact that it's a process. Understand that it's a process, and allow yourself to go through the process, to learn through the process, to become, who you need to become, and to deliver such the excellent product that you aspire to deliver. And that your answer kind of leads us into the next segment that we're going to talk about, which is overcoming challenges in global expansion. And maybe we're going to talk about like the cultural, I don't know if cultural and language barriers, maybe the fact that we have to compete on with larger international brands and more. So let me start off by asking you directly, what are some of the biggest challenges that Caribbean businesses face when they try to expand internationally?
I would say, kind of like what you mentioned recently, was like the local laws. Like what you said about you're not allowed to export the lipstick that you have. So also the banking challenges with the banking system. So those are initial. So a lot of times what ends up happening, companies have to end up setting up US banking systems. So if they don't have the access to even do that, then that's like a whole nother challenge on top of setting up all the banking in their local country. So I could speak to Jamaica, where to open a personal business account took me almost 3 months when I did it a few years ago. Then when I was working with entrepreneurs, they said, Kemoy, if it took you 3 months to open a personal account, imagine the pain, what they was telling me when they was to open a business account. As they're Jamaicans living in Jamaica, have everything set up. It's not like they're me, like who's transient, like literally. So those things can make it extremely difficult. Or you could be, for instance, in a country like Trinidad, where right now they're having a challenge with getting US, even if the US is in their own account. So it just is like those things. And it's just about, it goes back to that confidence and belief, and you have to be like really resilient. And that's why you see that there's so many business owners that do just create a business based on need, but they don't really scale and grow because of a lot of these things to even get outside of the country, or they end up migrating to start their business if they get that opportunity to migrate, and then they do that. So those are some big challenges. Capital is always going to be something what a business owner is going to say, which is true, but you could have the money. If you don't have the knowledge and the connections, the money is not enough. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I've seen plenty of instances where the person could have the money, but if they don't have the connections and they don't have the knowledge on how a process works, they end up losing the money, or they don't get into the right opportunity. Because you have to understand your own laws and regulations on how you can have your product leave. And then also what is the laws and regulations in the place where you're trying to export your products to. And sometimes there's so many laws. Like, one of the things that I'm working on at the moment, in order for people to participate, they have to have their business based in the US. So it's like, it's a great opportunity and it would work for somebody in the Caribbean and exactly what they need. But the rule is the person has to have the entity based in the US. So it's just so there are different programs that's available, but then you also then have to then find out which is the one that's going to be tailored for you. So I know in the Caribbean, that's something that I want them to continue to work on, because especially like interregionally, like, why aren't we doing more sales within the region? Like, that to me should have been a first step. But I know there's so many different challenges with plane routes and things like that. And when I start looking into things, I'm like, okay, so you start seeing the different roadblocks. So that's where collaborations is important, because collaborating with other countries is also important as well to foster trade within the region. Because if it's so hard to trade with the US and other entities, then we need to figure out how to trade regionally. And I know the systems are not set up, but then also too, that's where it comes in, is like, the systems are not set up, but somebody has to do the groundwork to start the process. The fact that you and I are talking, like, you're somewhere where I want to be at the moment. You're in the Caribbean. I want to be there. But we are able to have this conversation. Someone had to lay the groundwork to have this technology for us to do what we're doing right now. Because when we were kids, this didn't exist. We couldn't do this. So the fact that we couldn't do this, it says a lot. Like, people have to set the ground. And I think that's something that, even though people look at all the barriers, yes, we have the barriers, but then what also part of the entrepreneurial journey, what are you doing to make it easier for the next generation? Because if it's hard for you, what bricks are you laying to set in the foundation to alleviate this problem for the next person? But we can't do it alone. And this is where the collaboration within your own country, within the region, all of those things, we could start building the bricks to kind of just make it easier. And also connecting with those of us who are abroad, like myself. Are we looking for opportunities to service the Caribbean? So once we get on the other side, how can the diaspora also collaborate and be very intentional about informing people who are still on the island of opportunities that they could take a part, they could be a part of, so they can expand globally? So I remember a few years ago, I was in this group and I really love this brand. It's skincare, hair care. It's called Atenyo, and she's based in Jamaica. And there was an event happening, I think it was in Westchester. The founders of the group was Jamaican as well, and they was doing a speaking engagement here. And then they were also looking for different people who could like sell their products at the event. So I was just like, oh, and I remember in talking to the founder of Atenyo, and she told me, she was like, oh, I have a representative here. So I was like, oh, do you want can the person bring your products? Because she couldn't physically come, but I was like, can your representative be a part of the event? That event allowed her to get people who never heard of the brand before. And usually people in my group, once they in my group, meaning like friends, colleagues, like if people want to know like what's something that's really amazing, they'll ask me like, do you know somebody who sells this in Jamaica? Do you know somebody? And as soon as I'll recommend them, they'll be like, okay, sold. I'm going to work with this person. Because if I say it's good, people trust that. If I said it's good, it's good. And I wouldn't vouch for anyone. And she was able to attend that event. It gave her exposure in an international market. It gave her exposure to customers here who are like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I love this product. So it's that is twofold in sense that we need to work all together. Like those of us who left and those of us who are still there, we need to really work together, because that working together allows us to kind of give each other the opportunities, and all of those success stories can help to further the demand of the products to make it easier for the persons to export. I have another story of, this was about 2 years ago. I still say it's the number one turmeric soap in Jamaica. Tanya's Body Care. I was able to work with a Brooklyn-based company that focuses on wellness. They're an award-winning company. They have been recognized by different groups and received different awards, and it's called Life Wellness Center, BK. And one of the owners came to me, and she's Guyanese and her husband's Jamaican. She's like, Kemoy, I know you're always going to Jamaica. You know, I have a small space in my shop. I want to sell, some products from Jamaica. Do you have any recommendations? I gave her the recommendation for Tanya's, and it just so happens they were actually going to Jamaica like maybe a few weeks after, and they were going to the same part of Jamaica where Tanya's is based. They were able to meet Tanya. They met her. It was like, Kemoy, she's everything you said. I said, I know. They said they loved her. They fell in love with the product, and the next thing you know, they were selling the products here. And their first purchase order, I remember, is sold out in less than a month. So it's things like that where that's why it goes back to the collaboration, knowing your customer. Like if you have that key customers order from you, get to know your customer. You never know what opportunity may arise from that. And these are all small. These are like, I don't want to say small examples. These are examples, but the more this happens, the easier it will become. It's like laying the brick. I call it as myself laying the brick to make it easier, because to make it possible, so we could kind of overcome a lot of the challenges that happens with international and expansion. They got these brands to test their demand. They got to learn, like, okay, so what did the customers say at the events? Like when they were purchasing the item, they got to learn so much from these experiences that I just gave as examples. That's why I'm so big on the diaspora supporting these brands and giving them. And I want to build a platform where I'm setting the tone for everyone in the Caribbean to kind of do what I do, like to be a real champion of whatever island they're from or whatever product they have that they're fans of, is to like share it with your community, share it with your friends and family, share it with people who are outside of the Caribbean, don't have no ties to it, but still want to buy it anyway. So the more of us that do that and be that champion of that, the more demand. If you think of, like, for instance, I don't remember their full story, but if you ever heard of Scotch Boys, they have they're from the grill. Sorry for all my Jamaican references, but they are in Target. Yeah.
What's the product?
It's pepper sauces.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pepper sauces. I don't remember their whole story at the moment, but whatever they did, they had connections to allow them to get into Target. So it's the same. Yeah, and it's a Jamaican product, and they're unapologetically, I don't know what's wrong. Hey, enunciation. It's very obvious it's a Jamaican pepper sauce, but they also have it packaged where someone who's a Black American, someone who's American, Italian, they're like, oh my God, Jamaican pepper sauce. Oh, I'm gonna try this. I remember my trip to Jamaica, and it's easy for them to understand. They have it in different intensities, so they have the spicy, they had the mild, they kind of took care of everything. It's easy to understand and it's authentic all at the same time while catering to a US customer. So it can be done, and the more examples that we get of that, it can happen, and the barriers will break down. It won't happen overnight, but we have to just be invested in laying the bricks to eventually laying the bricks to make it easier for them to do it.
I guess it goes back to, just being consistent and sticking to what and I'm so happy when you talk about the different persons who, they place Jamaican products at such a high value, and yes, forgive us for focusing on Jamaica, but I'm pretty sure across the Caribbean, it's the same thing. Each country has their own unique product that, stands apart from the rest. I love that. And I also, what I got from what you're saying also is to show up. Show up through the collaboration, make yourself seen and make yourself known, in whatever ways that you can. And this is leading me to my next question, because what are some of, how can small businesses with limited budgets, I know you're going to help somebody right here. How can small businesses with limited budgets compete on a global scale?
Just because you have a limited budget doesn't mean you have a limited mindset. They shouldn't equal. So, and I wish I could remember her name. There's this Bayesian entrepreneur. I follow her online on Instagram, and I feel so bad. I can't remember her name right now. She sells candles, and what I love about her is that she has very innovative ways on how, like, she markets the product. Like when she's talking about, because I never feel like she's selling me anything. Like, I know when I go to Barbados, I have to find her store. Like, I just know it already because she's so, like, quirky, and not everyone has that sense of humor, but I don't know if she was an actor in her past life, but she's so, like, entertaining in, like, how she's bringing people in the store. I'm just like, why can't I remember her name? So I think of things like that. Like, it's so memorable, but the only thing what she's missing, the fact that I can't remember her name is the issue. Because if she was then also saying it, like using that as a part of her spiel, I would remember her name.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Yes.
like if she, because she's super engaging and it's always just like a funny quirk. And like I'm intrigued. I know when I go to Barbados, that's on my list. Because anytime I go to the islands, I have a list of places I want to go. Like I literally go, and that's something that will help businesses with a small budget. Anytime that I go to any island, I'm usually on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Mainly, I find them on Instagram for some reason, but I am on all three where I'm looking for specific. Like I'll be always on the lookout of something that I want to do or visit when I go to that island. And usually it's around a small business because that's what I love to do. So I'm always about discovering a small business or something that's unique. So I usually make a list, and I know that's also something too. If you have a limited budget, if you have an active presence on social media, you're gonna get persons who are like me or who sees your Instagram, or maybe if it's feature, if it goes viral, and even if it doesn't, someone who sees what you're doing and is like, you know what, when I go to X, Y, and Z, I want to go to this place. Because that's also a way to keep brand awareness. Also, let's say that someone tries your product, or they see someone's using your product on another page, and then they go to your page and they don't really see anything going on. Or let's say they go on your page and they can't really get a feel of your brand, you kind of lost the person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about how can you work with what you have. And it goes back to the mindset thing. Like you can have a small budget, but your mindset doesn't have to be small.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your Instagram. Instagram allows you to have a link in bio, or you can have a link tree or something similar to a link tree where you can have different links. You could take advantage of that. Even if you're not running ads or anything like that, you may not be getting a lot of people to your page because everything is pay to play on these platforms, but don't count yourself out by not even having the information available if someone stumbles on your page and they find it. It's about leveraging the people on your team. I've met entrepreneurs who wasn't like this person from Barbados, but they have people on their team who are entertained. And for some reason, there's a hardware store in Barbados too, where they have the whole team doing skits too. I don't know what is going on in Barbados, but I feel like and I don't know how I end up finding these, because it's not like I was searching for it, but I guess the algorithm knows me. But and like I feel all the people doing the innovative skits is like, when it comes to like people in a retail setting, it's for some reason it's Bajans. I keep seeing Bajans in like the store, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need anything hardware, but I might want to go to the hardware store in Barbados. So it's about doing those things. Joining programs. I know an entrepreneur in Jamaica, limited budget, but anytime she's been getting tapped to do different programs. I don't think it's Publix. I don't want to say which one, but there was an entity in Jamaica that was looking to sponsor small and emerging businesses. And it was like a 6-month program. And because she knew somebody who knew somebody, they selected her brand as one of those participants. And then while she was in the program, she made sure that she did all the different things that she needed to do to make sure like she could get the most out of the program. And then some of the services she got was like some free services, like to print some of her labels. I think she had got a stipend to get some of her ingredients, because she exports her ingredients. So it was things like that. So always be on the lookout for different opportunities, but it starts with your mindset. Because if you think like, oh, I don't have any money, small budget, can't really do anything, you're going to automatically limit the opportunities that you receive. Whereas if you're like, you're doing the best with what you have and you're maximizing it, and you're also focused on how you are going to increase your budget so you be able to do these different things, having that plan in place also will help you as well. So for instance, an example is most times when people are, especially in like a product business, a lot of times people don't think about their assortment and kind of keeping it tight. They want to just offer everything. They think they could just offer everything to everyone, whereas versus having a very strategic assortment and then understanding like your top 3 SKUs and what's your hero product, like what's your number one seller that if you didn't promote online, if you didn't do any type of marketing, like what product naturally sells, like because of the demand, like how can you maximize that product? How can you create ancillary products to that product? So that product could be kind of like, this is the part of my assortment that's going to help me to do this. Like have your assortments have goals. So it helps you to achieve whatever you're trying to do to get to the next level. And it goes back to the mindset and just having a strategic plan so you could keep getting to the next and the next and the next, and keep and planning for that and using your assortment as a driver to that. Not just saying, you know what, I want to have 50 SKUs and then they're all underperforming. Whereas if you have 20 SKUs or even 10 SKUs, they can outperform the whole entire 50.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing when to let some things go, because you might have something in your assortment that's actually costing you more money to make. It's causing you more stress to promote it, where you could be using that energy to maximize it somewhere else so you could get to the next step as well. So knowing when to keep it tight, knowing when to add, and also knowing when it's time for something to go. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And as you were talking, I remember some years ago, I'm trying to remember what entity it is. I don't think it's the Exim Bank, but it's some bank that's in Jamaica. And I'm thinking that other Caribbean countries have the same thing, where you can apply for different grants, free grants, that will go towards maybe your marketing, your PR, setting up your website, that kind of thing, free money, registering the business, that kind of thing. And I feel like that is a resource that more persons need to capitalize on and get on board with. Awesome. I love it. So really, really, we're saying that challenges will arise, but a strong brand identity, which you spoke heavily about, is important. And, the partnerships and the collaborations and just being strategic enough, thinking outside of the box. And we're speaking specifically about limited budget, thinking outside of the box about ways in which you can maximize on that limited budget, as you mentioned, tighten up where you need to tighten up and, find a cash cow product and use it to help to grow the other products. Awesome. And now I want to ask you, what is one mindset shift? I think you spoke about one previously. I'm trying to remember, but what would you say is one top mindset shift that Caribbean entrepreneurs must make when, thinking about going global?
I believe I did say this earlier, but so I'm going to use an example. This one brand, she's a friend of mine and I use her products. From the moment she created the brand, she knew she created it with the mindset that it was good enough to compete on a global market. Now, when she said it to me, I was like, And she said, no, Kemoy, when I created my brand, and her name of her brand is called Jojo Bean, she said, I created it with the mindset, because I've tried these other products from the international markets, and I know my product is good or even better than what is on the market based on the needs that she's servicing with her skincare line, because it's more focused on people with sensitive skin. And she has this undeniable belief. She is a person of faith, and she also has a very interesting way of how she formulates her products. She literally says, like, she has conversations with God and then she gets the formula. Like, when she was telling me these things, I'm like, okay, Melissa, like, she literally has, and she said, people have said, you do what? How you get your formula? Because we're like, how do you formulate your product? She was like, oh, I talk to God. Like, literally, that's what she says. And she's like, I have conversations and he tells me, he talks to me. I'm like, okay. And she was like, she had people look at her like she lost her mind. But I found her during COVID. She was like doing Instagram live with someone, and I instantly knew when I heard her talking. I'm like, oh my God, I need to buy your product. Like, I just knew I had to buy her products. I never met her before, I didn't know anything, and I literally bought her whole assortment. I was like, I need to buy your product. Like, I need to try your product because you're doing something. So it's just having that belief, and even like with your, so just having a belief, like you literally, and it's not an easy thing to do, but having a belief that your product could compete. Yes, I'm from this small island, and I may not have the ease of doing a lot of things like a bigger brand, but she's worked with these bigger brands before. She knows what it takes for them to be successful. She's used their product. She's aware. And she's like, you know what? I know I could create something just as good and know that it can compete. Is it going to take me a little bit longer to get to where they are? Yes. But the belief is unwavering. Like, it doesn't falter. And she sticks to her process. So when people are looking like, you talk to God? What? You talk to God about my product? Like, to get the formula, and people are like, what? Like, and she doesn't care. She's like, this is what I need to do, and I'm gonna stay focused on that. And I found in my experience thus far, it's not always the case, but many of the entrepreneurs that I've worked with in Jamaica, their faith is something, they're literally like, it's something very different. Like, it's just their faith and their, I don't want to say commitment, but they usually have a strong, like, I don't want to say they're connected to the church, but their belief in their relationship with God is very, like, they communicate that, like, very strongly when they're dealing with their customers. And it doesn't make people who are not so religious feel uncomfortable, but you could tell that that's what grounds them. And I can't explain it. And I always make this joke. Like, I always attract the Christians. Like like people who are really, I can't explain. Like I always um attract them. And when I'm around people who have that strong groundedness and faith in that their relationship, it's something very powerful. And I definitely believe it helps them with on their entrepreneurial journey. And it always attracts me as a customer because I see their belief and I'm just like, and I see that and I try their products and it's something about the product that's special. And I can't really put my finger on it all the time, but I know it's that. And it's happened multiple times where I've seen it happen more ways than one. Even having this conversation with you, like it's the same thing. Like people who are unapologetic, I don't know why I'm struggling with that word today, about their faith and they're infusing it where everyone feels welcome, but it also is teaching and guiding. And that mindset, it helps them a lot. Like I know like sometimes when they believe something is not possible, having that faith and that relationship and that ground, like it literally carries them through and it empowers their community. And I think it just always comes full circle. So I think that's something that's really powerful in doing something that's really hard, because going global, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of brands who are doing it seamlessly. And because there's not a clear cut path on how to get it done, I, from what I'm seeing, the brands who are going to do it well tend to be the brands who I've seen people who are not necessarily, but the people who I think who could do it sustainably are the people who have this grounded faith and this relationship with God or whoever they believe in or whatever they pray to. Those people, to me, I always feel like they move leaps and bounds, and I've seen it firsthand. So I think that's something that's really important for people to think about with the mindset. And then also like using tools. There's different tools and there's different books, but actually like implementing it. Another resource I would like to share is a person who talks about mindset and growth mindset. Stacey Hines, who is Jamaican, but she has a platform on YouTube. She's someone, and she's all about working with different businesses. But the mindset part of her business is really powerful. And I think any entrepreneur who may be struggling with the mindset, like thinking about how they could go global, I think going on Stacey's platform could be very helpful as well. And if you have any suggestions in terms of like faith leaders who do business really well, like I think that's also could be something that could help the community as well. I can't think of Jamal Bryant comes to mind, but I can't really think of anybody else. But I think that would be helpful in helping someone like develop that growth mindset.
Mm-hmm. I love the whole aspect of faith because I believe it is so important in you know me. That's what I'm about. The faith piece I believe is so important, but a lot of times I think we've become a little bit westernized. And so that is not really something that we filter into the mix. But thank you so much for using that example and reinforcing the importance of that. All right. If you could take one lesson from the Caribbean business landscape, things that you'd have been privy with, and teach it to the rest of the world, what would that be?
Honoring your culture. Because, and I know I did mention this earlier, but that's something that I would want to teach, because usually when you migrate to another country, many countries, especially in the Western world, it's about integration. So it's more about integration and assimilation. And sometimes it's not celebrated to celebrate your culture. Like within the cultures, it is, but sometimes on the larger scale, it's not. And especially when a lot of people migrate, that's the first thing, like, oh no, you have to assimilate, you have to be where everyone else. And it's just like, no, we have no matter what you do, like, even when I compare myself, like I was born in the US 2 weeks after my mother arrived. But even with that, a Black American, my experience is different. And I only realized it when I was like, oh, so you don't know what this is? Or if I hear someone speaking with an accent, like I'm like, oh, so this person said just like, oh, they're like, what did he say? And I'm just like, huh? Like, what do you mean? Like, you didn't understand what he said. And then I started to realize on certain things or food. So I think honoring the culture and being really proud of it in the home is something that a lot of Caribbean, that's something that we need to teach, is like, you're literally celebrating our differences. Like we could all come together in learning from different cultures, but also the honoring our own culture and everything that we do. So like for instance, I honor my culture wherever I go, because I like literally even like my head wraps. People like I've literally had people. I'll be on a Zoom call, whether it be at work or personal, and the last time it happened was at work. I was on this big call, didn't really think anything of it, and come to find out, a person took a picture of me, like a screen grab, and showed it to her friend. And she was just like, look at her. She's so like she's showing up as her authentic self. She has a head wrap. She has the, and I didn't think anything of it. And it was a call, like I wasn't feeling well that day. I just had to show up, and I ended up meeting her in person at a work event. And she was like, oh, you're the person who was on the call. And then she showed me her phone with the group chat with her friends, and she took my picture, and she was just like, yeah, because you was on a, like, I told my friends, like, look at her. And it was a simple thing as me wearing the hair wrap that I didn't think anything of. And yes, my head wrap is made by a Haitian American. My earrings is from a Jamaican maid. And every day I'm wearing something, whether it be the jewelry I have on, the clothes, the skincare. Like I use Jamaican on skincare. I have moringa powder from, like I use Haitian castor oil. It's amazing. Everyone needs to try it. If you have any pains, exercise, amazing. So I show up in everything that I do. Like I always have something that's a reflection or representation of the culture, whether I'm eating it, drinking it, wearing it. So I think that is something that I would want to teach to people. And I think that it could grow, especially when it comes to people like me who are like first generation. I wasn't born in the Caribbean, but I had a Caribbean experience. It's different from somebody who was born there, but I still make sure I'm honoring my culture and showing up in places where people who are not of Caribbean descent, but people still can resonate. Because this person, she wasn't from the Caribbean. She was Black American. So she resonated with it.
I tell you something, you're more Caribbean than some Caribbean. And that's what I love about you. From the day I met you, which is a couple of years ago, you're always repping the Caribbean culture. And it's so amazing. And I want to say I appreciate you for it. You know, setting the standard and setting, for us to follow pretty much. But I want to thank you so much, Kemoy, for coming on and having this conversation on our platform. And I just want to give you the opportunity. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share?
I want to thank you so much for inviting me to be on your platform. I think this is the second time I got to speak on your platform. The first time was at, I think it was Increase.
The conference.
When you had the conference. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you're doing. When I see Beyond Women and I see Terry Carell, I think you had Judy McCutcheon. I forgot, I'm not saying her last name.
Judy McCutcheon.
McCutcheon, yes.
Yes.
On your cover. Yes. Yeah, you had so many other people on the covers right now. You had Karen Dunkley. I love Karen Dunkley.
Sandra Lindsay, Dr. Sandra Lindsay.
Yes, you had, I don't know her, but I know Karen Dunkley.
Okay. So, Karen and I went to school. She was a little bit ahead of me.
Oh, so when I see these powerful, and you had Sheree Campbell on the cover, like when I see these powerful women that I've had the opportunity to meet, whether it be in person, like Sheree and Karen Dunkley, who I've met in person, or be like Terry Carell, who I've met virtually, never met in person, and Judy, who I've only met virtually thus far. When I see these women and like the stories that you have, is really inspiring. That's what attracted me. I don't remember how we met exactly, but
I think it was through Sheree Campbell.
Oh, and then just seeing all the things that you're doing and your resilience and your commitment to what you're doing and how you invest in Caribbean women. And even now when like you started talking about like perimenopause on your platform, and then the last person on your podcast was talking about like you're so invested in helping Caribbean women and using that from a lens. That's something that has been really important to me, that has inspired me, because in 2018, 2017-ish, I met a Caribbean thought leader, and in me meeting her online, she helped me to change my mindset. But I had got this message. I'm not sure how I got it, but something came within my mind and in my spirit, like things in my life was just kind of not going as planned. And I was like, I need to do something different. And I was like, it instantly came to me, the something different is that I need to embrace thought leaders from the Caribbean. Like there has to be thought leaders in the Caribbean. I want to learn from, I didn't get to go to school in the Caribbean. So I was like, I want to learn from people who had the Caribbean experience, because Caribbean people are they know when they invested in something, they know they have an elite sense of self in terms of like when they want to perfect and like learn and grow. And like, I need to learn from people who have that mindset. And I started just making sure that everyone in my ecosystem that I'm learning from is Caribbean. I learn from everyone, but I made it very intentional that I wanted to grow with Caribbean leaders. I want to make sure like anytime I'm speaking to someone, if someone asks me like, what tools do you use? How do you grow? Like, how do you think differently? Who challenges your mindset? Like I could always list a Caribbean person, and you, Jacqueline, are one of those people, as well as a resource that I would always have people go to, because any Black woman could resonate with the content that you're sharing. But Caribbean women, most importantly, we need that resource because we tend to always look to a US person, someone from the UK, from Canada, someone else from another place. But we don't need to look outside because the greatness is within us.
I love
And
that.
your platform highlights that, honors that, and celebrates that.
Thank you.
And that's what it's all about.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And to be honest, I am on a path now more than ever to amplify the Caribbean voices and to ensure that our voices reach a global platform, and for us as Caribbean women to recognize what we have, to recognize what we have. We are such beautiful. I don't even, I hate, not to say that I hate adjectives, but listen, I don't want to overuse an adjective, but we're just such a beautiful people, set of women, and we are powerful on the inside, and we have to recognize that. That's the bottom line. And we can learn from each other, and we can grow with each other, and we can support each other, So I really appreciate your kind words. All right. So what I want to end with is to encourage our listeners to take one step toward expanding their business internationally, whether it's researching new markets or I don't know if we spoke too much about the international trade shows that we have. Setting up the e-commerce store, and I want to invite you to share your thoughts using hashtag Beyond the Caribbean, or you can engage with us on social media by sending us a DM. Let us know what your thoughts are on this conversation and the other conversations, actually. And just a reminder that Caribbean business don't have to stay small. We don't have to stay small. We can expand globally. It is possible, but it is possible with the right strategy, with the right mindset, and as Kemoy is saying, with collaboration, with connections. So thank you again, Kemoy. You've been so insightful, and I appreciate the journey with you, and I continue to look forward to journeying more with you.
Thank you. And if people want to continue the conversation, I could be found on LinkedIn. And I know you'll include it on the show notes, right? And LinkedIn, and also on Instagram as well. It's Kemoy, so it's KEM as in money, OY _ KAYAN. And if you search my name, Kemoy Kayan Duhaney, it'll come up on Google, on LinkedIn, and also come up on Instagram as well.
Okay, thank you. And of course, we'll put these in the notes that accompany the podcast. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of the Beyond Woman podcast. I hope you're leaving feeling inspired and ready to take action. Remember, you are capable of so much more than you think. Keep pushing those boundaries, keep learning, and keep believing in your limitless potential. We want to stay connected with you, so be sure to follow us on social media at The Beyond Woman Magazine for daily inspiration and behind-the-scenes content, and to join our growing community of empowered women. Visit us at www.thebeyondwomanmag.com and www.thebeyondwoman.com, where you will find more resources and articles to support you in your journey. Sign up for our newsletters and be the first to know about our exclusive events and for more opportunities to connect. To all my Caribbean sisters, let's lift each other up. Share this episode with the women in your life who need to hear this message, and let's continue to build this powerful network together. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on this app. Your support helps us to reach more women. Thank you for being part of the Beyond Woman movement. Keep shining, keep growing, and keep living your extraordinary life.